Hello, my name's Jules and welcome back to The Secret Mind. I guess this might be the start of a new series. It is Halloween today. I'm going to talk to you about something very specific, monsters, specifically one monster. Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile is back in the news because there has been a TV series about him recently called The Reckoning, with the brilliant impressionist Steve Coogan doing a pretty brilliant impression of him. And probably doing a controversial documentary, but something that probably serves a purpose. I met Jimmy Savile when he used to visit the QE2, when I worked on the QE2 cruise ship. I was the ship's doctor, and he would be a regular visitor. He went on there many times more than I did, I think. In fact, Cunard has probably escaped the association with Jimmy Savile. That was his main holiday destination. Mercifully, it was a adults own, generally more adults orientated cruise than have children on there. But he's back in the news, and I have a book of his, a bizarre book, a very strange thing, and it's this: God'll Fix It by Jimmy Savile. It's been on my bookshelf for many decades. It was given to me via my mum's dancing teacher. I remember her giving me 3 books. I didn't read any of them, and they were all designed to convert perhaps me to religion or interest me in religion. And this was given to me as one of the books that might do that, I guess. Popular appeal with the most famous entertainer in the country. That might be the sort of thing that might help. There was one other book I remember called Who Moved the Stone, which I loved for the title alone. I never read it, but I loved the fact that they were setting up the idea of Jesus's body being recovered from behind the stone and going into forensic detail about how that might have happened. It just sounded like a great detective thriller, just a sort of book I might read, but I didn't. I don't remember what the 3rd book was. I don't have even the 2nd book, and I don't have the 3rd book, but I do have this for its novelty value. And I've noticed down the years something, and it's this. On Amazon, when you look there, it's not available. You can't buy it. It says the last copy that went for sale of this book cost £2,000. Now, whether it went for that or not, I don't know. But I thought, well, maybe I've got a collector's item here. And also maybe it's a good opportunity to get rid of it, get it out of the house. It's probably about time. And also, it's become a historical document. Maybe somebody would want to read it. So I put it on Amazon. I put a price tag on it of £2,000. But it seemed ridiculous. So after a couple of days, I reduced that to £500. And then that seemed ridiculous. So after a week or so, I thought, well, I'll put it in at £45. It's a pamphlet, effectively. And it's sold a few days ago. It'd only been on it for about a month. I wanted to put it on while the television programme was on. I thought it might have some revived interest in it. I don't mind profiting off negative things. So it's sold. So now I've got to post it to somebody, and that's what I'm going to do today. But before I did, I thought, well, I better read it. This book can't be found. It's quite a rare book. It's quite an important historical document. And around that time, the Russell Brand situation was coming out. And it was interesting to me how many similarities there were with the Jimmy Savile case and with Russell Brand. So I thought I'd better read it. I'm not a big reader, but it's easy to read. It's only 64 pages. So I sat down for an hour and read it. And it feels like a conversation with him that has just been recorded on a dictaphone and then transcribed into a book form. But he may have done the whole thing. I know he wrote newspaper columns, and I could see on the television dramatisation, not a documentary, a dramatisation, that he did submit his newspaper columns. He probably wrote for the Mirror or the Sun or something, tabloids in the UK. And he submitted it, what seemed to be notes on a pad. Maybe that's the way people did it in those days. It's hard to believe now, isn't it, with word processors and all the rest of it. So I thought I'd better read it, and because I'm going to then not have it anymore in an hour or two's time, I thought I'd tell you what's in it. I made some notes while I was doing it. It's simply what it is. God will fix it. It's made by Christian paperbacks, Mowbray's popular Christian paperbacks, and it was £1.25 net when they do it. It has a bunch of plates, I believe they call the pictures in the middle of them. They're pretty random, I think. This is one of the man himself. So I said to Winston, this is two of them in quite a bizarre garb, with some choir boys. I mean, obviously he was extremely flamboyant. That will have been a very colourful costume. I thought they were with you, is his joke. So Chief Ironside here forgot to clunk click, so that's a man in a wheelchair. He would refer to them as Ironside, after the American detective. And what does that say at the bottom? The boss and me in the works canteen. Any senior member of the church, he will refer to as the boss, the Pope, God. They all get the boss, and probably anybody else that it suits him to schmooze. Same with the Prime Minister, Harold Wilson. He's giving me the pound out of his pocket. And that is, I'm on the right, the star is the blonde, the star is the kid. Okay, fair enough. And one more of him. God fixed it for all of us. Jim will fix it. Just a hugely popular television series. It's why it's left so many of us conflicted when we enjoyed the programs as kids, for it to turn out to be one of these hidden monsters. And so I made a few notes while doing it, and I thought I'd just read the quotes to you that I made, and then I'm going to throw them in the bin. I'm going to post the book, and that's it, done. You have to be genuine, because however clever you are, if you're not genuine, you'll be found out. Some of these things, you can learn something from this guy. He was savvy, so savvy nobody saw him, hidden in plain sight. And it wasn't lost that the Russell Brand documentary, In Plain Sight, was also used the same phrase as they used to refer to Jimmy Savile after he'd died and his deeds had been discovered. In plain sight. You have to be genuine, because however clever you are, if you're not genuine, you'll be found out. Who was it who talked about faking sincerity? Was it Oscar Wilde? Same concept. A clown is a highly skilled performer who wears a mask. Fine, he's obviously referring to himself. He had so many masks. He did so much clowning with his props, eating bananas live in interviews, smoking this cigar all the time. But highly skilled, referring to himself as highly skilled. So just kind of talking in the third person. And most of this book, because it's God'll Fix It, named after his television series, Jim Will Fix It. Such an eye-catching title. He comments a lot about God, because he's asked a lot about it in the fixed questions that he's asked that head up each chapter. Chapters such as, how do I picture God? Is my God the same as other people's God? Am I frightened of God? How do I see Jesus of Nazareth? Is Jesus alive in the world now? What do I think? Why do I think that people crucified Jesus? Why do I think people suffer? So someone had put these questions to him, and he'd wrote a little essay and turned it into a book. What happens when I die? What do I like about life, and what do I dislike? Have I ever had any religious experiences? Am I saved? What shall I say at the pearly gates and at the judgment table? Why do I go to church? Does it matter to God that I've got a few quid? So, I believe God is very easygoing, allows you to waver every now and again, have a bit of room to wobble about. E.g., he gives an example, forgetting for a day to say your prayers. And also commenting that prayer is not only of quiet, but of action. I kind of like that. You know, action is what causes change. Prayer is not only of quiet, but of action, on earth as it is in heaven, as he says. I am rather like a magician who will by sleight of hand deceive you, both the deceiver and the blunderer with words. So, I mean, that instantly conjures up the Russell Brand thing, both wearing outrageous outfits, both having an outrageous relationship with words, twisting them, and not smoothly though, in a jutting, jarring sort of way that both makes them feel they're super articulate, and as opposed to just chronically verbose. And enough people fall for that. It becomes powerful. Both a deceiver and a blunderer with words. I think I can turn most people on with my light-hearted words and such like. I think he knows his stuff. He probably can. He can turn most people on with his light-hearted words. Light-hearted words. As a teetotaler, so he doesn't drink. I think Brand probably will turn out to be heavily blaming his substance uses and using that as a reason for his actions. But Savile was a teetotaler. As a teetotaler, I'm possibly very lucky. Am I guilty or innocent? Actually, a bit of both. A lot of these things, when you see YouTube videos or you see documentaries, it's reading between the lines with him, because that's all there was to read. 99%, this is just offered apropos of nothing, 99% of scientific discovery is historical discovery. It was all there in the first place, which I kind of liked. He must have read that somewhere. I've never read that particular sentence, but I thought about it and I thought, oh, that happens to be true, doesn't it? It's just uncovery, effectively, discovering things that are already there, and we call it discovery. So it's our discovery is our understanding, isn't it, of something that's already there. And presumably in the context of this book, that was crediting a creator, perhaps. Very few things are created, he goes on to say. For requests he has to deny or are not possible, the more I do, the more unpopular I become. So that's quite a nice lesson for anybody who achieves some sort of fame and popularity, because they always moan pretty early about the perils and the downside of fame. The more I do for people, the more unpopular I become, because those negative voices shout loud, don't they? And people ask him, do you do this for publicity? I've forgotten the first reply I ever gave to that. I kind of like this answer, because I try to give a different type of reply every single time. I don't have stock answers. I kind of like that. I tried to do the same sort of thing. You don't want to stock answers. You want to give an honest, open reply to the question from that questioner, as though it's the very first time. Sometimes you'll see people interviewed and ask questions and they tire of it, don't they? Or they dismiss the interviewer, or they groan. Or the whole point about acting is doing a performance a number of times and trying to make it sound like it's the first time. As Ian McKellen famously said in Ricky Gervais's Extras, you just got to make it sound as though it's the first time these words are coming out of your mouth. So the thing about Jimmy Savile, if he was making a reply slightly different each time, he would occasionally give a further clue to his deeper psyche, which even he wouldn't be able to totally put the stopper on when things are edited together later on, looking for those clues. I don't have stock answers. If you dedicate your life totally to helping people, they will kill you. Ask Jesus, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. I thought, that's a point, isn't it? I mean, that's a good point, and something from his lived experience where he has helped a lot of people. That was the big paradox in raising millions, tens of millions of pounds for these charities. Bringing a smile to the face of a child with cystic fibrosis is fighting evil. I mean, who could disagree with that? Death. In death, he's asked about death. What will happen to him? There is a great chance that my spirit will join other reasonable spirits. It's the remit of every monster to probably deem themselves reasonable. At some point they might need that comfort if they go on for as long as he did. Join other reasonable spirits. That's the price. That's the title of a documentary in itself. Other reasonable spirits. He kept fit, smoking cigars, but he didn't inhale. He did the Bill Clinton defense, so maybe all that was a prop. Was he never inhaling those cigars? Was it all just a prop? And when asked if he'd overstepped the mark, I felt I might have gone wrong in specific instances. Specific, not few, but specific. The one thing we do know now is it certainly wasn't few. Sometimes crossing over the line, he felt as though it was a totting up, a weighing up of good and bad. His good would outweigh the bad when it came to the judgment of St. Peter at the gate. In my early days, I was a great abuser of things and bodies and people. I mean, what a sentence to write. A young woman, I'd take advantage. It's a pity temptation can be so nice. Yeah, it's a pity temptation can be so nice. And I can't read the next line because I've scribbled it in Doctor's handwriting. Something to do with being at St. Peter's Gate. It talks about the benefit of going to church rather than just going to Mass as a Catholic. For slow down time. It's the best thing the churches provide, I think. That slow down time. It's always a shame when the doors are locked if you walk past. He comments on Catholicism in itself, where he felt that the rules can be made but broken so easily, it seems, as demonstrated by the people who apply those rules so frequently. People over 70 should have a free telephone and free calls. Well, time has moved on. Hopefully they would all have something close to that now. Only not free calls maybe, but they used to be very, very expensive to make a phone call. God will only be too pleased to settle for what you do, not for what comes from the end of your trumpet. So that's his final line. I just checked that on his final page. There he is. He will be only too pleased to settle for what you do, not what comes out at the end of your trumpet. I've really enjoyed writing this bit. Come to think of it, Jimmy Savile, OBE. If St. Peter won't let me in, I wonder if it would help if I threatened to break his fingers. I suppose not. That was a line that he used several times in a couple of interviews. So that was God'll Fix It by Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile is an enigma. His job forces him to clown, bamboozle and pull the wool over our eyes. I mean, this is written in 1978, published in 1979. So even the back copy states the situation. In this book, he comes clean. Well, not quite. He talks frankly about his relationship with God and his commitment as a Christian, showing what this demands of him in his day-to-day life as a disc jockey, TV personality, and most dear to his heart, hospital visitor. His joy in being involved with other people, many of whom are seriously ill, shines through the book. A strong faith and sense of humour makes him trust that, come what may, God'll fix it. Well, we don't know if he did or not. I met Jimmy, I had a chance to talk to him, took the chance to talk to him on the promenade balcony of the QE2. He was just there smoking a cigar, always had his formal garb on, and he was wear these big, what do they call these big sashes with medals on? I'm not sure what they were. So I had a chat with them. I asked him about the Louis Theroux interview at the time, had been out a couple of years before, I think. I asked him if he ever saw Louis, predictable question. And my dad was on that cruise. And he asked him the other question that was famous in our family, is that he came from Leeds, as my family did. And he famously bought my auntie a box of chocolates. And history tells us that box of chocolates was as big as a door. So we can assume it was a big box of chocolates, but that it may have been not quite as big as a door. But he came in, sat on the sofa, smoked his cigars, and came to my auntie's party when it was I guess the 60s, or it was all the time of the disco era and the miniskirts, and she was on that scene and he was there as well. So they must have had some mutual friends that brought them to the same party. So that was that. And I'll put that in the post now for the purchaser who bought it for £45. I just wanted to document it. Happy Halloween. See you next time.